Now we welcome Reto Amstad. Reto comes from CyOne, and as a senior security consultant, he advises public authorities and companies on IT and IoT matters. Thank you. Is there?
Perfect. Yeah, good afternoon. IoT security in a connected world. This morning, actually, I realized it's a little bit a dull title, but still it has some truth in it. I mean, our world is connected, is becoming even more connected, and what we learned today, we are also even more dependent on our digital infrastructure than years ago. Maybe a few words to our company. We are a medium-sized company. We're based in Steinhausen. Around 60 people. Most of them are in R&D and engineering. And we innovate and produce also by ourselves security products and systems. And mostly our customer is the Swiss government. And our products, they are for communication backbones and highly secure end devices like notebooks. Just last week, I was in a conference in Cham. There we talked, it was a healthcare conference that tackles the topic of security in healthcare appliances. And there we discussed the topic of remote patient monitoring or telemedicine, telehealth. And I think that's a beautiful example of how IoT really can improve the life of people, not only the life of people, and also in that case, has a huge potential to decrease cost, which is a big issue, especially in Switzerland, as you all know. And I think this example shows how IoT evolves from is a little bit a gadget philosophy to a really vital part of our infrastructure. And so my goal today is to give you an idea what are the cyber threats or the cyber problems we face with IoT, and also give you maybe some ideas how we can fix them or what you should have an eye on. My presentation, I took as an example a typical production infrastructure, or you can also take it as a building automation infrastructure. So where do we come from? In automation, we come from I call it classical hierarchical control system. Many of you know maybe the ISO 95 pyramid. That's what you see here, more or less. And within this pyramid, which starts on the bottom with sensors and actors, for example, a motor or a sensor in a building infrastructure, to the PLC level, or SPS in German, HMI, and sometimes we have a supervisory level with SCADA systems, and on top, our business systems. And the world used to be quite simple, very strict communication flow, very segmented network layers, and mostly we had controlled and also terminated external connections. And for example, you have an external supplier, and he or she does remote maintenance support, maybe for 1 hour, then you cut the connection, usually, again. And also, we had a clear segmentation between IT and OT, so the operations technology and the, let's call it, business IT. So, from a security perspective, it was, I wouldn't say easy, but it was easier to control. It was easier to make boundaries, it was easier to make intrusion detection and prevention, it was easier to make monitoring systems. But now, as you here are all working very hard, life gets more complex. And IoT affects all of our society's areas, as we have heard today. And what is important to note is that it also affects very critical areas, like healthcare, like smart infrastructure, and also building, by the way. I think recently German government, the BSI, added building infrastructure to the critical system for their Kritis law, because they noticed many businesses, they don't function without a proper building automation working. And so what is coming with Industry 4.0 or IoT as a part of it? I call it, I'm not even sure if it's proper English, dissolving of the automation pyramid. So this hierarchy dissolves. And we introduce in the Fachjargon a cyber-physical system which is not hierarchically structured anymore. I have a lot of industrial automation background. I worked 8 years in that area. And what you can clearly see, when there is IoT projects coming in this infrastructure, we have connections on multiple layers. As you all saw today, for example, it starts with IoT-ready sensors and actors on the bottom. We also connect PLCs with the cloud, usually via a gateway. Sometimes we use the SCADA servers as a data source because they already have a lot of interesting data in a central point. And also, of course, sometimes with MES systems or ERP systems. If you look from a perspective of a cyber criminal, what she or he always does is, of course, looking for the weakest link to get at your data or your processes or intellectual property. And now, with the introduction of IoT, of course, we have a more complex world because we have more stakeholders involved. We have more active stakeholders in the network and usually not always terminated, so sometimes permanently online. And what is also a topic, also very, very heavily in healthcare, for example, is the topic of data sovereignty. For example, if you have a smart device, personal device, it goes to the manufacturer cloud. From the manufacturer cloud, it goes to the another cloud usually, so the facilitator cloud, and then it goes to the hospital. Yeah, who is now responsible for the whole journey? Who is responsible for securing the data at rest and in transit? And who is monitoring this whole journey, by the way? That's another question. A very important point also when it comes to IoT in the last year is this supply chain threat. Because we have a lot of technology that we buy and integrate in these architectures, it is sometimes difficult, difficult to verify if these are reliable sources. And so the chances that from the factory we have problems in our systems, they are real. But why has IoT sometimes a little bit hard stand with security people? I mean, there are different topics we have to discuss. Usually IoT, as I mentioned, they're always online. So it's not from 9 to 10 o'clock for remote maintenance activities. We have often, not always, products with low security standards. We heard that from CSM today. It's also a cost topic. It's not a technology topic. And these vulnerabilities are usually easy to exploit. That means you don't need a sophisticated hacker or something. You can buy the tools in the internet and do it by yourself with basic IT knowledge. And also topic we heard today, poorly serviced. That means usually you install systems and the patch management and update management is rarely really good. And also, of course, IoT devices are from a security perspective very interesting for a vertical and lateral movement inside the network to achieve further targets. If you go a little bit deeper into an application, as you all know, usually we have sensors, we have actors. Sometimes they are connected directly to the internet using SIM cards. Sometimes they use a gateway dedicated to send the data to a cloud service provider. Now, from the perspective of a cyber criminal, of course, we have multiple attack vectors. We have the sensor side or actor side, we have, of course, the gateway, and usually also a problematic topic is communication between sensor and gateway. But as always, that's a question of risk. Is it a risky vulnerability or not? And of course, also we have the cloud side. The topic that IoT applications, IoT products are poorly serviced has changed. I mean, companies noticed, okay, they need to patch the things, they need to deploy new firmwares, they need to do key management. The question is, how do you do it? And because in the last, I would say, 2 years, cybercriminals also noticed that the path here, when companies deploy new patches, new firmware from their update servers to the devices, could be a very, very nice way to spread malware, even globally, which we have seen, especially last year, I say. So the question is, what can we do about it? If you ask a security consultant, they will always say to you, yeah, of course, it's people, technology, processes, and it's product, and it's integration, and it's operation, which is true. That means that you can have a very secure product, but if the integration is not good, mean that the available security features are not activated and properly managed, yeah, what is it good for? And also the secure operation, a vital part here is the lifecycle management. How do you do your vulnerability management and deploy new updates on your system? As a last slide, I will give you a few hints on the product side, so lowest level, what you can do. So as I already said, maybe heads up first. Very important is, we call it a security by design approach. That means if you develop such a system, please consider the security aspects already in the development phase, because it's much more complex and much more expensive if you do it in the end phase of the testing, for example. So validated update process, that means you have to have a mechanism that makes sure that the update that reaches the device is integer. So it's not falsified by a third party. Software integrity and secure boot. So your device should check if it boots, if its operating system, for example, has been compromised. Secure management. I think we have a nice presentation afterwards from Microsoft about device management, so I'll leave it to them. Resistant cryptography and key management. Sometimes you read the topic of military-grade encryption. It's always funny, because actually we can say standard encryption is secure. The problem is always of how you integrate it into a device. How do you do the key management? So if something goes wrong, it's usually not that the code is broken, but it's that somebody retrieves the key or finds its way around. So it's about the integration of the technology. And if relevant, but for example in healthcare it's really relevant, is tamper and sensor protection. So what does your device do if somebody takes a screwdriver and opens it and plays with it? Does it go in a secure state or not? And of course, think about how you can monitor your solution. And for example, send data in a security operation center. Yeah, closing words. And that's the only sales pitch slide here. If you are interested in that topic or need support, please contact us. We also have a booth outside. And now I'm open for questions.
Very well, thank you. Thank you, Reto. I'd like to hear some questions from the audience. Maybe a quick question. No, okay.
Good,
thank you very much.